Okay. Well, thank you all for tuning in for this call today. I'm excited to talk with you guys and to share something that I think has been such a big key to success. And the title of this call is Leading with Joy and with Passion and Love, right? But I probably should have retitled it in a little bit of a different way of like, what do you do if you don't have passion and joy and you're kind of losing that fire a little bit? Like, what do you do to get it back? Because I think that everybody knows why that makes such a big difference in your business when you're feeling that passion, when you're feeling that like fire for this. And it's really because it is what influences people to want to be around you. That's what makes people feel that like magnetic energy towards you, because you're the more sure person. You know, we said that the more sure person is always the person who wins an argument or who is the most influential person. So like if someone has a hesitation on a price and you're the more sure person, they lean towards your sense of security in that price. But if they're more confident in their hesitation and you're kind of like, yeah, I don't know about the price of this as well, then you lean towards them, right? Because the more sure person in any argument or conversation is what wins. So if you're more sure in this passion and you're leading with so much excitement for what you're doing, you are someone with a strong ability to influence other people. And this is where that, like, you know, we all know that it's makes such a big difference. I mean, people want to have fun. People want to have that hope that there's something that is better out there for them. And so that energy that you are approaching with your business, when you're talking with your team, when you're posting on social media, all of that has such a strong influence on your success as a Beachbody coach. But here's the thing. I think it's really easy when things are going well for you to be like, life is awesome and everything's going so well and I'm like loving this and like everybody join my team. But how do you get that joy and passion? If you're like, well, my life is kind of hard right now, I'm going through a struggle, or like, how do I build up that energy so that people are wanting to join my business, right? That's what I want to go over. But before I go any further, I'm realizing that it's probably a good idea for me to share a little bit about me because as I'm looking at this list of people who are tuning in, a lot of you I have not met in person, and I don't know your story, so I'm assuming that you may not know my story. My name is Brigitte Linford, and I have been a coach coming up here on 5 years. So April will be my 5-year anniversary. And when I first started coaching, this very much came from such an authentic place of, I am so excited and I'm so passionate about this because it made such a difference in my life. I had just randomly seen a post on Facebook from this guy, and it was actually a very slimy, salesy, money-driven post that someone had made where they were literally had posted a picture of a check that they were paying extra towards their mortgage that month. And he was paying $5,000 extra towards his mortgage, and we weren't even making $5,000 a month. So that blew my mind that somebody had $5,000 extra to pay towards their mortgage. And so I was just intrigued by this person and started following his Facebook page, and it was Scotty Hobbs. And I saw all of these transformations on his Facebook page. I saw all of this photo album about Shakeology, and I was in this process of trying to lose weight. And so these transformations like sealed the deal for me, that I'm like, okay, if it works for this person, and if it works for this person and this person and this person, it's not just Scotty Hobbs here who's loving P90X, you know, maybe it will work for me too. So I pulled out P90X that I had bought from Craigslist years and years prior, but had never done. And I went to beachbody.com and ordered Shakeology. And all of this was without communicating with Scotty at all, because I am happily married. He's a guy. And in my world in that moment, I was like, he's going to get the wrong impression if I reach out to him. And he's like half naked in his profile photo. So, I didn't know him. I didn't want to reach out to him at the time. So I was a Shakeology lead for somebody else. And I never heard from that person. But every single day I would go to Scotty's page and learn about Beachbody, because he had this website and he would talk about coaching in there. And all of these people would be sharing like that they were doing their workouts, and the way that he kind of ran his Facebook page at the time was almost like a challenge group, where he would be like, just did my P90X workout today. What did you guys do? And I would see all of these people comment that they did their workouts too. And this was really kind of before people did a lot of challenge groups. Like, he never put me in a challenge group. And it just inspired me. It inspired me to keep doing my workouts every single day, because I knew I wasn't the only one. And I knew that there was all these other people who were doing this as well. And I could see, like, as he was sharing so many transformation stories, that this was working and that it would work for me too. So I checked in every day on his page, didn't say anything. I did P90X for the first time, and I was using Shakeology, and I lost 35 pounds in 4 months. And I felt amazing. Like, I just felt so good. I was so excited about my results and felt like, I wonder if I could do this too. And of course I had so many fears, but a lot of that was dissipated as I just felt in my heart that, like, there were people who would be inspired to do this because I was willing to share my story and I was willing to talk about it that nobody else could reach, And so I reached out to Scotty, sent him this long message and said, hi, I've been stalking you for the last 4 months and I've had this transformation. I want to be a coach. So that's my story of how I got started. But I really came into this in such a good place mentally, where I was happy for, like, I would almost say the first time in my life. Like, that was the first time I had really taken care of my health and worked out and eaten well. And first time where I wasn't, like, living in depression. Depression was a large part of my history, where ever since puberty, I was depressed. I was writing suicide letters in 6th grade. That's how much it hit me hard. And when I was in my early 20s, I was in a mental hospital. And so I was not just a feeling of the blues. Like, when I say I struggled with depression, it dominated my life, for the majority of my life. And so I think that's why this topic is, like, so near and dear to my heart, because when I look at my journey and what has made the difference, I'm telling you guys, it has been coming from a place where I felt awake and, like, so much passion and excitement for, I am so grateful for these products. I am so grateful for this community and the difference that it's made in my life, that I could not talk about it, And, like, that fear of, oh, what are people going to think of me? It was like, well, what's going to happen if I don't share this with them? Like, how can I keep this to myself? So I was way more motivated by that and driven by that line of thinking than I was, what are people going to think of me? I just couldn't keep this to myself. So I feel like that really helped me see a lot of success starting off very quickly. And after 14 months in this business, I was at that 6-figure income mark and making $2,000 a week. And just, like, I feel like I kind of came out of the gates like, I'm all in, I'm doing this. And I'll throw in the income disclaimer: Beachbody does not guarantee any level of success. If you're watching a recording of this, you have to work. I did not just, it didn't just magically happen. But this is that aspect of the work and the X factor, if you want to say it, of leading with joy and passion. So what is the formula of getting there? Like, how do you create that joy and that passion so that you're just oozing this excitement that people are like, oh my gosh, I don't know what you're doing, but I want to do it with you. And I'm all in, like, I'm with you. And I'm telling you that you have to create that. Like you have to create this passion and this excitement and this joy in your life. And you have to do that before you're seeing the success. Like I think a lot of people like look at a top coach per se, and they're like, well, of course they have passion and joy and excitement because they have all this success in their business. And they think that like happened after the fact. You know, they're like, I'd be happy too if I was seeing success, where it's actually a precursor, not a result. Like you have to be happy, and then that leads to success. One of the best books that I have ever read is called The Happiness Advantage. And if I could name it as one of the most influential books, as a must read, especially for leaders, for you guys, not like just your new entry level coaches, I would tell you it's a must read. There's very few books that I can't even count how many times I've read them, and that would be one of them. It's one that I was even listening to this morning again on audio. So I listened through Audible. And I love it because it's really based on scientific studies and facts. And so it's not just like some guy sharing nice feel-good ideas. It's this guy coming from Harvard who's sharing scientific studies on how happiness influences the results that you get in your business, in your life, but then scientific studies on how to create happiness. Not just like, oh, congratulations to all the happy people in the world, you're going to be more successful in your life, but it's saying how people can change, and where there's scientific studies to back that up, where you can literally retrain your brain to think differently. So even someone like me, who has had this chronic history of like severe depression, like if my life isn't proof of it enough, there's scientific studies that show that you can change. Like you can change how you think, and you can be like that naturally happy person who has a different baseline, and that can be created and be an authentic thing for you. So I wanted to share some of those things. That's a little bit more of my background on why this is something that's so passionate for me, and why I think it has made such a difference in my life. Okay, so now you get the why on why joy and passion makes such a big difference. But I want to talk about how you get that. Now, I shared with you my story of how I got started, but I will tell you guys that then I started for the first time again really struggling with my energy and my mood. And it was not like the depression that I had felt prior, but it was just like I felt like I was just in a funk. And then it was like, oh crap, like it made me question everything. This would be like the last year and a half kind of working through all of that. And it made me question everything. I'm like, well, I've always come from a place of I'm sharing this because I am happy and this has changed my life. So now what do I do when I don't feel that way? And it actually gave me a really good opportunity to learn how to create that again, and how to work through that and what that all means. So I do just want to share a few things that you've got to think of. And the very first thing is something that I'm kind of pulling from this one book. It's called The 10-Minute Energy Solution. And as you can see, there's all these stickers. I got it at like a used bookstore. But it's really interesting that the first thing that they talk about before you're sitting there and focusing on, okay, like the mental aspect of what can I do for myself? Like what are the mental tricks and stuff like that? That there's a what they're calling a SHIN protocol that you have to work through first. And the S stands for sleep. Like before you're sitting there trying to do all these mental games with yourself to create this positive energy and to create this like positive emotions, if you're not getting enough sleep, like you're digging a hole in that's constantly being poured into again. Like it's completely ineffective. So they said sleep is just one of those things you've got to get it taken care of. Like you have to have a good sleep routine or you're digging your own grave. Hormonal issues. And I think that's the big thing that I realized was going on for me. finding out like I have this autoimmune disease and my hormones are like out of whack. I think that that is actually something that affects more people than people realize, especially ladies. So if there's other moms on this call, something happens to you in pregnancy and your hormones go out of whack. And sometimes like, then it doesn't go back to normal, or it's later on, like your hormones are just so wired crazy, then it like comes back to bite you in the butt again. So I would encourage everyone, like if you're sitting on here listening to this call and you're like, how do I get joy back in my life and back in my business? Go to a naturopath and just get things tested. Like get a full blood panel test, get your hormones checked at a naturopath, where it's still a doctor, but I'm telling you, I went to a primary care physician, and unfortunately they just don't do the full blood panel test because insurances don't want to cover it, so they don't make the money off of it. So as backwards as that is, it's the reality. So go to a naturopath, get a full blood panel test. So then the I for this SHIN protocol stands for infections. If you have a certain infection, there's just certain parts of your body where you can't fight against that. You need to get that taken care of because it's affecting your energy, it's affecting your mood. And then the N is nutritional deficiencies. And I am so grateful for Shakeology. I think that's a big part of where I noticed that mood shift happening for me was I was finally getting the nutrients that my body was needing. But even still, especially as you get older, and I've noticed now that I'm 34, my body needs more nutrients than even 3 years ago, in my even earlier 30s. And especially for people who may be not getting enough sun, like vitamin D, like if you're not getting enough vitamin D, it's affecting your mood. So I know it sounds kind of crazy for me to go over that, but you're just fighting against something that is like making it that much harder for you if you don't take care of those things first. So take care of those things first, make sure your health is being taken care of. And I feel like then that goes into being proof the product works. Like if you're not working out, if you're not drinking your shake, all of that, like you don't have joy and passion for this business, right? And I'm not going to drill into that because you guys are diamonds, like you're leaders. You guys know that you've got to walk the walk. And even because your authentic self, you don't feel good sharing something that you like don't believe in yourself anyway. Like you can't hide that. So, that's the first big thing. Now, the second thing I want to talk about was a big lesson that I learned last year. And this was with the help of a life coach who really helped me identify this. Now, it was Tony Robbins. Many of you guys have probably been to his seminars and you've heard him talk about male energy and female energy. And there's a difference in there. And I've never been one of those, I've never been highly like feminist of like equal rights and stuff like that. So if you are or if you aren't, excuse me if I'm using certain terminology that offends you. I don't really think about that stuff. So this is how I see it. But you have a male energy and you have a female energy. And the fact is, whether you're like recognize yourself as a really feminine person, like that's what is really fueling a lot of your energy and your passion and your excitement is this female energy. And if you're not like nurturing that and you're trying to always come from this male energy of, excuse my language, but I don't know how else to really word this. The male energy is like, I'm going to get shit done. Like, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to make things happen. Like, I'm in. This is like what's going to be, and the female energy is more nurturing and like loving and like, okay, how can I take care of you? And more relationship driven. And quite honestly, you need both to be successful in a Beachbody business. Like the female energies have to know how to tap into that male energy of, I'm going to get stuff done. And when they lead, like, and then the male energy has to know how to nurture and pull out that female energy in them, right? But it's just important to be aware of this, because here's the thing. If you are trying to live your life as a Beachbody coach constantly in the male energy of, okay, I gotta drive, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go, you're gonna be drained and you're not gonna feel good and you're gonna resent this business and you're gonna be like, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm constantly trying to like drive myself, and I guess I'm just not a driven person. But in reality, like, it has to come from a place of like, this female energy has to be nurtured. So you can't ignore it because you're trying to compete in that man's world of business. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I hope I'm explaining this well, but there has to be that step of both. And I see the comment of, I need more male energy and way too lovey-dovey. And I'm so glad that you can recognize that, because I'm going to go into that next. But how do you tap into that? Like, if you are struggling with how do I tap into the female energy, I think it's more just an acceptance of, yeah, even though I may not see myself as this girly girl, I have to allow myself time to nurture family relationships or make friends with the people that I'm doing business with, so it doesn't feel so transactional. Like, you're not going to be fulfilled, is what I'm getting at, if you are not tapping into both of those and nurturing both of those, and realizing that you are a feminine person because you are a female. You've got to take care of that. Okay. So that's how you kind of nurture that part if you feel that's the one that's lacking. If you feel like the male energy, you're like, how do I get driven? I don't know what that is. Here's the secret. Refusal energy. Refusal energy. And refusal energy is what gets you into that male energy. Now, I want you guys to think about, like, any one person that you've heard ever in this business who has really, really seen massive success. And what is it when you hear their story that like made the difference for them? And I'm telling you, it's refusal energy, because there was something in their life that they said, I refuse for this to be my life. I refuse for this to continue on. And especially for females, a lot of it has to do with their family. It's like this mama bear like energy, right? Where you're just like, there's a threat to my family, so mama bear is stepping up, and I refuse for my kids to be in harm's way. I refuse to continue dropping off my kids at daycare and not see them. Like, I'm not okay with that. Like, I'm not okay. Like, I've heard Gabby, this other coach share this story of how like she went to pick up her daughter at daycare and like stopped there at a lunch break, and she found out that her baby was sleeping. So she's like, okay, I'm going to go. And then there's a baby that started crying. And the worker there was like, oh, your baby just woke up. Like, do you want to actually stay? And Gabby realized, I didn't recognize that was my daughter crying. I don't even recognize my own daughter's cry. Like, how sad is that? Like, that I don't recognize my own daughter's cry over a daycare worker. This daycare worker knows my daughter better than me. And how heartbreaking that was. And you better believe that tapped into the mama bear refusal energy of, that's not okay with me. I refuse to allow a daycare worker to know my daughter better than me. Like, heck yeah, that allowed that woman to step into the male energy and say, this is not okay. And I refuse to let this continue on. For me, there was absolutely a refusal energy that I tapped into, where like we had gone through bankruptcy. We had gone literally almost 2 years without income. And even still, it makes me emotional to think of the things that we had to go through. And I am so grateful that my kids were young enough to not know what was going on. Like, I remember wrapping individual packets of fruit snacks for my kids for Christmas because we didn't have money for gifts. And, I shared this yesterday on my page, but there was a time then too when we weren't paying the bills and our AC got turned off. And I had 2 little toddlers. I didn't know what to do during the summer. I remember opening up the freezer door because that was the only cool air that we could find, essentially, right? To have that cool air coming out at them. And they thought it was this game and they laughed. And I just remember thinking, I am so grateful that they don't know what's going on. But this is not okay with me. If this were to ever happen again when they're teenagers, like, how does that affect a teenager to have that kind of instability in their life where they don't know if the next day they wake up, like, you know, if they're going to get Christmas presents, or if the power is going to be turned off, or is that car going to be taken away? Like, I knew that could never, ever happen again when my kids were older. And so when my husband had a job, but it was not something that we saw was even going to be around in 5 years, and we were having those conversations at night of, okay, what's our plan? Like, what are we going to do? Are we going to go back to school and get a degree, like, so that you can get a certain kind of job, you know, move back into student housing? Like, what are we going to do so that we have something in 5 years? Like, I saw this opportunity and I was like, I refuse to be in that situation again in 5 years. When my kids are older and teenagers, I refuse to have that conversation with my kids on why they have to move, why we have to leave their friends. I refuse to have that conversation. So I was okay having a conversation with someone to invite them to a challenge group or to invite them to my team. That conversation did not scare me. The conversation with my kids in telling them why we couldn't do this, why we couldn't do that, and I'm sorry you haven't seen your dad today, he's been working 2 jobs. I was not okay with that conversation. So that refusal energy really brought me to that, like, stepping up to get crap done. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that, like, stepped me into that. So for you, what do you refuse? Like, what threat do you see to your family? Like, what threats do you see happening that you're not okay with, right? Now, here's the thing. If you're, like, not seeing this massive threat to your family in certain things, this is not a time to sit there and think, what's wrong with me? Or there's something wrong with me, okay? Because I'm telling you that the threat to my family has changed, right? And I thought that for a long time of, okay, I've lost my edge. Something's happened to me. Like, something's wrong with me, because as we created a financial security and, you know, we've been able to, like, address, okay, what's the biggest threat to my family? Okay, we're miserable in this weather. So we moved from Idaho to Arizona. Okay, what's the biggest threat to my family? They don't have friends. Like, okay, let's move to a different school area where they can have more friends. Okay, then now what's the biggest threat to my family? I don't see one, essentially. Now the biggest threat to my family is, do they know I love them? Do my kids know that they are the most important thing to me? Right now, that's the biggest threat to my family that I see. And so that has changed my goals, all right? Where the biggest threat to my family is making sure that my kids know I care. Now, I couldn't even get to that threat when the threat of, like, we're not paying the bills was there. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there's always, like, levels of threats, okay? And so you address one, then you're going to see another. And this is why we say, like, your why is going to change. But I feel like that why really is, like, what's the threat to your family? Because those whys are what keeps you up at night. Like, are you not okay with your family not taking vacations? Like, does that make your heart break? Or is it that, like, I'm not going to be able to put my daughter in horse lessons, and how do I have that conversation with her of, I'm sorry, mommy's scared to talk to people, so you don't get to have horse lessons? Like, does that not sit well with you? You know, your why will change, and you've got to be okay with that and not think, like, there's something wrong with me. Does that make sense? Okay. So, another thing that all is influencing your joy and your passion, but another thing that really influences that is making sure that you are not waiting to be happy. Like, waiting until, okay, I'm going to be happy when I have a 6-figure income, or I'll be happy when I'm a 1-star or 5-star elite, like all of these things. This is something that I've seen some of my coaches do, and I wasn't aware of it, and I don't know if I totally did this myself because I got really excited about certain things along the way. But I went to this Brendon Burchard seminar, and one of the things, this just stood out to me so big when he said, okay, you set your goal and then you identify like 5 levels along the way to get to that goal. And when you reach each step, you turn around and you celebrate. Like you get excited and you're like, dang, I did good. I'm so proud of myself. And you're like, get excited. And you literally like, let that soak in instead of being like, okay, awesome. Next step. What do I got to do to get to the next step? Like, take some time to let it soak in, guys, because that's when you literally turn around and pat yourself on the back. And I do feel this is one of those things I did, but I don't think I identified it, that's what I was doing to find that true joy in the journey the whole way through. Now, one of the ways that I did this as a new coach is that first year I signed up, I was really working towards the Success Club trip. And largely because I really wanted to take my family. And we didn't have money for vacations. Like our vacations were like once a year, we saved up so that we could have the gas money to go to the family cabin that we didn't have to pay for, but just to have enough money for the gas and food, right? Like that was the big family vacation, which is fine. But I saw my friends taking their kids to Disneyland. And I was like, I remember pricing out that specifically. And it was so much money that I was like, well, I'm just going to have to be okay with the fact my kids are never going to go to Disneyland, you know, like, and that's just going to have to be okay. And then the Success Club trip was to Disneyland. And I remember being like, okay, I just got to focus on Success Club. I got to hit Success Club. And I had to work really hard, guys, to like even hit Success Club. Like this business did not come naturally to me. I was not the person who signed up and had 50 Success Club points. I didn't have a large group of people to talk to. I really had to talk to a lot of people to find 3 to 5 people to say yes. You know, like that's more me. Like I really had to overcome a lot. And so I really celebrated every Success Club point. And I really celebrated when I hit Success Club. That was big for me and my family. So I set up this thing with my family where I'm like, all right, if mommy can get in Success Club this month, we're going to go do a family date, like a family activity. And I remember showing my kids pictures of Disneyland and showing them, this is what I'm working towards. And, you know, people have those little like YouTube clips of surprising their kids with Disney tickets. Like, I watched those. And I would envision that moment I got to tell my kids we were going to Disneyland and like what their reactions would be. And like that meant so much to me. And that fueled me where I woke up really early to get things done because that meant so much to me, right? And I was celebrating that every little point that I was getting closer to that. So every month my kids would be like, Mommy at the dinner table, did you get Success Club? Did you sell another challenge pack? And it's like, they're 5 and 6. They don't even know what that means, but they knew when I had Success Club 10, we got to go do something fun as a family. And that was also a big deal because we didn't have money to go to the movies. We didn't have money to go bowling unless I set aside that like, okay, this is what I'm working towards. I can justify it with these amount of challenge packs that we can have this money to go to the movies or to go out to eat or to go to the water park, you know? And I remember every time we did those things, I really let it soak in. Like I remember being at the water park that we had never been able to take the kids to and really soaking it in as I'm watching my kids play that like, I earned this. Like we wouldn't be here if I hadn't have woken up early all last week. And so I was patting myself on the back every step of the way. I didn't wait until I was elite to be like, oh, I'm so excited. Now I'm a success story. I was like each step along the way. And guys, you've got to do that. You've got to find the things that you're like letting it soak in and be like, I did that. Like I created that. How awesome is that? For this to be continue to be a place of joy and passion for you where you're like, I've got to get more moms doing this because every mom deserves to be able to be here at the water park with their kids and like know that I created this and this is awesome. Like that fueled me like no other, to know that like this wouldn't be happening, and people are living that way too. They can't live that way. And so that fueled me. But there's so many people who will wait to be happy or wait to be like patting themselves on the back until they're elite. And you know what's going to happen is you're going to get there and you're going to turn around and be like, I don't know if that was worth it. You're going to be like, all I see are the trials. All I see were the rejections, the late nights, the early mornings, the things I missed. And you know what I saw when I got there was, wow, this has been such an incredible journey. And I'm so grateful. And this has been completely worth it. I have no regrets on the sacrifices I made, because I can see how I celebrated, and those celebrations wouldn't have happened any other way. Okay? The other thing that I want to share, and I need to pull this out, but it's also from Brendon Burchard, and he talks about this life of balance, that there needs to be, sorry, I need to pull this out here. But he talks about 8 different aspects of your life that you need to make sure you're taking care of, and that you have goals in each one. The first one is health. And, I kind of talked about a little bit as well. Mission, like, what is your mission? How do you rate yourself on your mission in your life? Love, friends, your hobbies, your finances, your spirit, your spirituality, and adventure. So again, that's health. Please do write this down, by the way, okay? So health, your mission, love, friends, hobby, finances, spirit, and adventure. And he talks about like these are really all of the aspects of your life, and these are the areas of your life. And look at that, and how do you rate yourself on each area of your life? And here's the thing, guys, if there's one of these that is so low and out of balance, you don't have joy and passion. You don't have joy, and that hopefully can give you an insight onto where's the biggest threat in my family, and what do I need? Where do my goals need to be to address this threat in my life and take care of it? Is it your love, like your relationship with your significant other? Is that the biggest threat to your family? Because if you're not getting along with your husband, that's definitely a threat to your family. Is it finances? Is it your spirituality? Is it that sense of adventure that's not being fulfilled in your life? So I just wanted to share that list with you guys as you're like trying to identify like what's missing in my life, like where's the joy, where's the passion. Narrow it down to one of those areas of your life so that you can go in there and say, this is where my goals need to align. Like this is where I'm tapping into my refusal energy, because as you bring up all of those areas and they're all like, 8 and 9s, you're really living a life of true joy and passion that other people are like, I want on that ride. I want to be on that ride. Like I'm signing up for that. So for me, this last year, I really realized, well, one is health. I was like, I don't know why I don't feel good. Now that I've had these blood panel tests and have started different supplements and, hormone treatments, I'm like, man, guys, like that makes such a big difference, right? And then I realized like friendships and hobbies were a big deal that I also was then struggling with. So I found a hobby, and I started doing flight lessons and started taking private flying lessons, and like just to like be a well-rounded person who is coming from a place of joy and passion. So see what those biggest threats are for you. Okay. Another point that I wanted to get to is just even then now coming to mindset of how are you defining what you're doing, right? I definitely think that can be a shift in your joy and your passion when you are rewriting your job description more into a calling description. Does that make sense? Like, I think so many people think about the task that they're doing, and that they let that define like their quote unquote job that they have, and they're not looking at it as this is my calling. So if you were to write out what you do, how would you define and describe your job in a way that would make other people want to apply for that job? Does that make sense? Like, and let's write that down maybe as something to do later today. Like, how can you describe your job in a way that makes other people want to apply? There's a blog post for you, right? Or a Facebook post. But think of this example with like a janitor, and this is probably been shared before in other talks, but you know, is there the janitor who shows up every day, cleans up the messes, and sees his job as I clean up other people's messes. I'm here to, like, I wash toilets and I scrub bathroom floors. Like, my job sucks, you know? Or is it the janitor who's like, wow, I am creating an environment of growth for children and future leaders of the world. Like, I am creating that environment so that they can focus on that growth. Like, who do you think is showing up to that job with joy and with passion and with excitement to be doing what they're doing? And I'm telling you guys, your words do matter. In that Happiness Advantage book, he talked about this scientific study where people acted differently when they were told they were supposed to play a game that was the Wall Street game versus they were told to play a game that's called the community game. Same game, same rules, but they titled it differently and named the game differently, and people behaved differently. Now, you guys as leaders, what words are you using with your team to create joy, to create passion? Like, because that is influencing things in a bigger way than I think you realize. Like, are you sharing that vision of what you're actually doing here and what's going on here behind the scenes? Like, in the posts that you're making, like, are you attracting people who want to sign up for a calling? Or are you talking with your coaches being like, okay, guys, I know this kind of sucks. I know it's like the end of the month, and I know everyone's got to hustle now and work really, really hard, and it's a sacrifice. You got to leave your family here, and you got to work hard to hit Success Club. Like, who do you think is like, yeah, let's do it? You know, like, people are not excited about that. So make sure that your words are reflecting the calling that this gets to be. And the intention is not to misrepresent the work, you know, but to highlight the meaning that is derived from the work, you know? And it's not just the task, but that larger purpose behind it all right? And that you're sharing that. Okay, now we're getting close to this time, so I just want to share a few final thoughts with you guys. Now, what happens when life is really, really hard? When there may be a divorce or a cancer or just something that is significant, how do you work through those really hard experiences to still find the joy, still find the purpose, and move through that with happiness, right? So I'm going to share this example with you guys. So it was a year ago when my daughter and our family, we went ice skating, and my daughter fell on the ice, and I looked down and to help her up and could see that my ice skate was over her finger, cutting her finger in half. And that was so traumatic for me, for my family, for my daughter who heard me screaming, for our whole family, that I cut off my daughter's finger, you know, with my ice skate. And her being in the hospital, and that was really hard. And I think that was a huge trigger for me, and I really wanted to go into this state of depression, you know, that old familiar place of, wow, who am I kidding? I'm this horrible person. What am I doing here? You know, that was just a big trigger. I am very grateful that happened to coincide with the time when I was listening to the Happiness Advantage, because there were key things that were shared in that book that made a huge, significant difference for me. And one of them was this story that was shared in that book. And it talks about how these people walk into a bank, and they're there, and a bank robber comes in and fires a couple shots, and a couple people get shot in the arm or the foot. Nobody dies, but they're interviewing these people. And this is a real story, by the way, a true story. But they're interviewing these people, and there were a couple different accounts of the story that came forth, where some people were just like, man, this is highly inconvenient for me. Like, this is a very unfortunate experience because I was not shot beforehand and now I've been shot. Like, yes, this was a very unfortunate experience that just happened where, it could have been avoided, right? By me not going to the bank today. And then there were other people who were like, man, I could have died. Like, I could have died. I am very fortunate that I am still alive, that it is very fortunate that nobody in that bank got shot in the heart, in the head, and died. Now, I thought it was really interesting because it's like I can see where both accounts are coming from, right? And I think everyone can kind of relate that you're like, yeah, it's very unfortunate and it sucks for you that you were there and that like happened to you. But then you're like, yeah, but you can be really grateful. But here's like the key thing that I wouldn't have normally picked out. In the Happiness Advantage, she shares how essentially really we always are comparing our current experiences to alternate scenarios for us to make sense of it all. Now, the people are either comparing it to the alternative scenario of, I could have not been shot today and I could have just not gone to the bank and none of this would have happened. And then other people are creating an alternate scenario of, I could have died, Here's the thing is, it comes down to not, are you a negative person, are you a positive person, but what alternate scenarios are you creating in your mind to make sense of your current circumstance? Does that make sense? Alternate scenarios. That's how you're always making sense of your current time right now. And the powerful thing is you get to choose. You get to choose what alternate scenarios you are comparing that current circumstance to. And I was sitting there spending so much time comparing my current experience of, I'm in the hospital for 2 weeks with my daughter who's 5 years old, confined to the bed. This is hard. Instead of comparing it to the alternate scenario of, she could have died. She could have had someone ram a skate into her head and been brain dead, or, she could be blind if the skate had gone into her eye. There's so many other alternate scenarios that could have happened. I am grateful. I am grateful that it was not this different alternative scenario. But you always have the choice. You always have the choice. So no matter what really tough experiences you are going through right now, I encourage you to choose what alternative scenario you are choosing to compare it against. I'm not going to say it's not hard, but I'm going to say you still have the choice. You still have the choice on what scenario you're pairing it against. Now, hopefully that kind of helps you see that there's a power to choose that happiness, because it's not a matter of lying to yourself or turning a blind eye to the negative, but about adjusting your brain to see like it differently, right? Now, another little tip that I want to give you that has made a huge difference for me is to journal, right? Now, journal, the reason why this is so powerful is when you write down your thoughts, you are moving that information from the feeling part of your brain to the problem-solving part of your brain. And that is scientific fact. That's another thing I learned from this Happiness Advantage, that like when you're just feeling it and you're talking to someone or whatever, it's literally they can measure it. It's in a certain part of your brain where you're not like problem solving. You're only feeling it. So writing it down moves that information to the problem solving part of your brain. It is scientifically like proven that helps. So write these things down. Write down your feelings and your thoughts when you're going through really hard situations so that you can find the joy, the passion, the excitement, all right? And give those feelings identification. Another tip I want to share with you guys is to identify that when you complain about something, that means you can do something about it. Like, think about that. You do not complain about gravity because you know there's nothing you can do about it. You're not like, oh man, I fell down. I'm so pissed off about this gravity. Like, gosh, like stumped my toe. Like, I'm so mad. I'm complaining about this gravity, right? Instead, you plan a game around gravity. I'm going to throw a ball up because I know gravity will pull it down and it'll land in that hoop. You use that. You use the things that you can't control to your advantage. So if you find yourself complaining about something, know that that's a big red flag in your face that you have power. You have power to do something about it. Because if you're complaining about it, that's your internal instinct of, that means it doesn't have to be this way. It means I can do something about it. So write down your thoughts so it can move into the problem-solving part of your brain and you can figure it out and find a solution and change your circumstances. Got it? All right. Those are the main things I wanted to talk to you today. And I appreciate you guys all like getting on this call again. And I'm just coming to the rest of these comments. But yes, just to review again, like make sure that you are taking care of your health. Go do the blood panel test, all of that, because you're like trying to clean in a hurricane if you're not taking care of your health. Identify the male energy and the female energy and what things nurture your female energy so that you can nurture that and take care of that. And be aware of what your refusal energy is so you can step into that like male energy and get stuff done and like kill this business, right? And crush it. Make sure that you're celebrating along the way, patting yourself on the back. Literally, my kids laugh at me, but I'm no joke. We'll go on walks and I'll be like, tell me what you're proud of yourself for today. What did you do good? So they can pat themselves on the back. And I physically, when I walk out of my office every day, I pat myself on the back and I'm like, you did good, Brigitte. You did good today, because no one else is going to do that for me. Like, yeah, we talk about recognition, but it needs to be a daily thing. I need to pat myself on the back, be like, I did good. So laugh at me all you want, but that's what I do. I pay attention to those 8 balances of your life to figure out like, okay, what is the biggest threat to my family that I need to take care of? You know, is it, my family, love? Is it friends? What is it? Be careful of how you're defining things, that you rewrite your job description into a calling description. Make sure that you are also paying attention to hard situations and how you're defining them, so that you're choosing the alternative scenario that is empowering. And also make sure you take advantage of journaling and be aware of your complaining that may happen, not to beat yourself up, to know that that's an awareness that you have a choice and you get to choose something different and you can do something about it. And all of this together are things that create joy and passion in your business so that you can lead with that, because when you're leading with that, you're magnetizing success and like more people who want to like jump on that train with you and build the business, build the team that you want to have. So I have nothing else to say. So thank you all for getting on this call. I really, really appreciate it and for your time. And I will talk with you guys later. Thanks.